We're here this morning on Trevor Cligg's farm in West Dorset, and it's wonderful for me because I used to be a dairy farmer myself, and here we are on a much bigger dairy farm, but still got the lovely cows that I used to spend all my life dealing with, and I've almost forgotten what it's like, but it's great to be back. And Trevor and I both have struggled with mental health difficulties, and what we want to do this morning is to encourage anybody else in the farming community who has that sort of problem to seek help early, talk about it, and not be ashamed of how they're feeling, because it is an illness, and like any other illness, if you get help early, then you won't get so ill. So that's why Trevor has very kindly agreed to let me come here and talk to him, and together we hope that we will be able to encourage all of you who might be struggling to not sit on it, not hide it away, but be as open as you possibly can about it. My name's Nick Viney. I used to be a dairy and sheep farmer on a much smaller scale than Trevor here, but stopped farming some years ago, and subsequently I've been involved in an organisation called FCN, which is the Farming Community Network, and we try to support farmers through any problems that they're needing support with. It's all sort of a range of different things. But I have noticed that although they can be financial problems, they can be family breakdown problems, very often there is a mental health problem as well, which is not talked about and for which support is not sought. And that has really worried me, as I suffered from my own mental health problems when I was farming, and I understand how important it is that we should talk about these things. And one of the reasons we're here, perhaps the main reason we're here with Trevor, is to talk about his mental health problems, because although he's been a highly successful farmer, he's very well known, he's done a lot of representing of farmers on the national stage, he still has this problem, and he's very kindly agreed to talk about it so that we can encourage farmers anywhere in Dorset to ask for help and talk about it early. So, Trevor, thanks very much for having us. It's really good of you. Fascinating to be on a farm again. I loved every minute of it. Tell us about your experience, how it started and what went wrong and what it felt like.
It started about 25 years ago, I guess. It was strange in a way because we had moved farms in Devon, bought a bigger farm, had a few years with a lot of pressure. And then after 4 or 5 years, that pressure started to come off. And that's when it hit me. Although with hindsight, I think I had struggled before, but not really realised what was happening. So it hit me quite hard. I'd go out to work in the morning for 2 or 3 hours, do the milking, and then basically not be able to motivate myself to do anything else for the rest of the day. I'd just sit around, not say a great deal, which was hard for my wife and family. After a couple of weeks, my wife insisted that I went to see a doctor, thankfully. So I went to see a doctor, and he said, well, within a few minutes, he said, I think you're depressed. But he said, you are halfway towards solving the problem because you're here and you've asked for help. And he put me on medication, and I have been on that medication virtually all the time ever since. I come off a couple of times for short periods, but found that I needed the medication even at a relatively low dose, and I've accepted that that is part of my life now, and it helps a lot, but it's something that will never go away from me, I think. I still have bad days, bad weeks, and a couple of times I've had a few, more than a bad week, a couple of bad months. But I think now I know when it's happening, and I think I can cope with it. I sort of know how to get myself through it. But a lot of the time it seemed totally illogical, because when I'm under a lot of pressure, I can cope. For other people, I know it's exactly the other way around. But that's how it is for me.
And when you are bad, what does it feel like? I mean, do you lose sleep? Do you find it difficult to take decisions? Describe what happens.
I think for me, yeah, it is more difficult to make decisions. I actually become very sleepy. I probably sleep more. I guess that's probably trying to hide away from the issues that I've got. But yeah, I mean, it's not just that you feel bad mentally, you actually can feel quite bad physically as well. Extremely tired, almost nauseous. And then, at times you do have thoughts of doing things that to yourself that would not be clever. One of the things that I've picked up on, where one of the counsellors who I spoke to said to me, always when you feel like that, always think to yourself, well, if I'm feeling like this, things look bleak, but ask yourself, what is the worst thing that could happen? And that's something that I've been able to focus on, because sometimes you think, well, yeah, the worst thing that could happen might be pretty damned awful, but you probably survive it. So it sort of helps you get things into proportion.
Yeah. And you mentioned counselling there. Do you think the counselling side of things is important as well as the pills?
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, because this is so different for everyone who struggles with it, with these issues. For some people it will be more important, for others less so. But I think you do need to listen to counsellors, and not just talk to counsellors, but talk to other people about it, especially your family, because if you can tell them how you're feeling, it will probably make it easier for them to cope with this, because it's not just you, it affects everyone. It affects your family, it affects people you work with, and if you've talked to them about it, I think at least they do have a little understanding of how you're feeling, which allows them to cope with your problems. But counselling, yes, is very important.
Because I think, I don't know whether it's true for you, but certainly for me, I remember feeling such a burden on other people,
yes.
and that that was the trouble with sharing it with your family and people you loved, was that you didn't want to impose yourself on people, and that's a danger, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Yes, you do feel a burden, but on the other hand, if you don't speak to them and things deteriorate, you will be an even bigger burden. So it is difficult to talk about it, especially the first few times you speak about it. But I do think we all need to be much more open about it, because it's something that is not obvious, but it is an illness. If you break your leg, get cancer, pneumonia or whatever, it's obvious and you talk about it. We say about mental health issues, but I think sometimes it should be mental ill health issues that we should talk about, because it is an illness.
Yeah. And like any other illness, if you try and ignore it and pretend it's not there, it gets worse, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
have to-
it's no different to cancer in that respect.
No. You have to accept that you have a problem, and then once you've done that, you can start to deal with it.
Yeah. If you had a magic wand,
I wouldn't be here.
and you were looking, as I'm sure you do, with great fondness at the Dorset farming community, what would you, in terms of mental illness, health, wish for most?
I think I would wish that people would talk about it. I think that's the biggest thing that will help, because a lot of people are struggling. Some who stay out of sight, a lot of people who sort of withdraw and aren't seen, but also there are other people like myself who sort of hide in full sight. But talking about it, I think is the biggest thing that you can do to help, to whoever, be it your family, your friends, counsellors, doctors, but just talk about it.
Well, thanks so much for being so open and sharing what you've experienced. And I would just add, that FCN is here to talk to as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So my final message to you, dear farming community, is talk to us. We're here to help. We are farming people. We've experienced many of the feelings that you're experiencing, although you probably feel that you're the only person who's ever felt like you do. And we do know that it helps to share things with people. And you probably in your heart know that too. And if your problems are requiring more professional help, we know people who will help you. So do get in touch with us. There is a number you can ring, which is 03000 111 999. And there is an email you can write to, which is chris@fcn.org.uk. Everything is confidential, and we will be there for you. We are giving our time because we want to help people in farming, because we've been helped in the past by others. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.